All right, everyone, we're going to start the training part of our call. This is going to be product training today. And what we're going to be covering is the Forrester's Financial Plan Right. And Plan Right is their final expense product. Now, here's the disclaimer. In no way, shape, or form am I proclaiming that I am a Forrester's expert, okay? I don't know everything about this product. I used to write a lot of it. I got to be honest, I like the product, I like the company. It's been a while since I've written it. I know we've got quite a few agents that are writing the product. They've recently made some changes to their product, which I think is for the better. But at the end of the day, this training that we're doing today is to educate you and to give you some knowledge about some other carriers perhaps that you're not using. But it's up to you, the individual agent, to really do your due diligence and really dive into this product. All I simply want to do today is just give you a brief overview of the product and tell you why I like it and certain situations where I think that you should use it. But I definitely think that Forrester should be in your top 3 to 4 carriers to take a look at. So learn about the product and blend it into your mix with Transamerica, Mutual of Omaha, Forrester's, Liberty Bankers. Have it in there. It's good to know these certain products because maybe you can offer a client coverage with Plan Right as an example. With maybe another carrier would have been graded, and you just didn't know. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you do have any questions, let me know. If I know the answer, I'll try to answer it. But best thing to do is if it's a question I don't know, honestly, do what I do. I just contact the carrier. And I've really been, over the last 24 hours to prepare for this, I just kind of gave myself a crash course on Forrester's. Went to their website, went through some training videos. I read the underwriting guidelines, read through a bunch of the prescriptions that I'm familiar with to really, get myself familiar because, I want to be an expert on these products as well. So, if you do need help and you call me, I can have the knowledge to be able to help you. With that, what's the new launch with Forrester's? Well, they have done a repricing based on the 2017 mortality tables. So the pricing has changed a little bit. If you were familiar with Forrester's before, you will see that the new plan, the names of the plans are a little bit different. If you've written Forrester's before and you're familiar with the product, this is going to be really easy to understand, okay? They have 3 new plans, okay? They call it the Plan Right Preferred, which is a level benefit. They have Plan Right Standard, which is a level benefit. And then they call it Plan Right Basic. I just call it graded. That's a graded death benefit. If before, Forrester's had 3 levels. They called it their level benefit, then they had graded, and then they had modified. So basically what they've done is they've kind of kept all the health questions the same, but now they've recategorized it. So if you would have been a Plan Right graded, which was their second tier program, which had a reduced death benefit, that now becomes their standard program, which is a level death benefit. And the old modified plan is now their graded benefit, okay? So this is going to be a huge benefit, especially when you're trying to get clients same-day coverage with some certain health issues. Now, the other thing that has changed which I don't think is a big deal, is that they changed their minimum death benefit from 2,000 to now it's 5,000. So 5,000 is the minimum death benefit. Okay. Accelerated death benefit rider for terminal illness has been righted to the preferred and standard. They also have the family. Let me move the screen. They also have the family benefit rider has been added to the plan right, preferred, standard, and basic plans. Now, guys, I'm not an expert on all the additional riders available with Foresters. That's where you really kind of need to do your homework and to get familiar with exactly the terms and conditions of the riders that are available. There is an updated application. So if you have old Foresters applications, throw them away. The applications include the medical questions which have changed, the qualifications for the different plans, the payment information is in there, and new form, okay, the new accelerated death benefit form for terminal illness that must be left with the client for preferred and standard plans, okay? So just be aware that the application has changed.
So throw away all the old Plan Right apps is what you're saying.
Yeah, throw away all the Plan Right apps. I'd throw the brochures away too because the riders have changed. Okay. So just order all new stuff for Plan Right, guys. What does Plan Right offer to your clients? Guys, this is just kind of a basic overview. I think most of you realize is that what we're selling, it's a whole life policy. With Foresters, because they are a fraternal organization, they don't actually call it a policy, they call it a certificate. So they get a whole life certificate designed to offer. What do they get? They get a quick application process that requires no medical exam, no blood, no specimens. The 3 basic types, based on the underwriting qualifications which we've covered already, preferred, standard, and basic, permanent life insurance protection to age 121. What does that mean? That means that this product is endowed at age 121. What does that mean? It means if they live to 121, they have to keep making premium payments. And at age 121, the cash value will equal the face amount, okay? So basically, what you explain to your clients if they ask is, when will my policy be paid off? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Client, based on the pricing on this policy, is that you would be required to pay on this policy until you passed away, unless you wanted to do a reduced paid up option. So guys, with these policies, there are reduced paid up options, which means they can take the cash accumulation value and there's a calculation and they can just take it would be a reduced face amount and they can stop making payments on it and accept the reduced face amount, okay? A client's beneficiary, this just goes over the options, guys. We know that final expense policies are designed to cover funeral expenses, probate fees, other financial obligations that may be faced with losing a loved one. Ability to create a legacy for your favorite charity organization, okay? So that's something that we talk about when we're dealing with our clients, and we ask them, Mr. and Mrs. Client, here's the 3 reasons why most people request this information. Number 1 is they don't have any coverage at all and they're looking for some. 2 is they have some coverage, but they just feel like they could use a little bit more. Or the last is, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you have plenty of coverage, but you just want to make sure that you're leaving a special benefit for a loved one for your or possibly your favorite charity. Which one of these best applies to you? That's basically what they're talking about here. Plan Right product details. How do they base their insurability is what this slide is talking about. Well, they're going to run an MIB, that's your Medical Information Bureau. They're going to run a prescription history. They're going to do a personal health interview, and then there is a bill chart. I got to tell you one of my pet peeves. There is nothing probably more that drives me crazy when I see an agent get an application turned down because of height and weight. That's totally inexcusable. Guys, you need to look at the build chart. If you're sitting in front of your client and you ask them how much they weigh and they're 5'5", 275, something in your brain should click and you should be thinking to yourself, 5'5", 275, that seems a little heavy. I better take a look at the build chart. Now, if they're the average weight, and let's say someone who's 5'5", I would say in the 175, 180 pounds range, no reason to look at the build chart. But if it just seems in your head, if it seems a little funny, take a look, because there's nothing you can do about it. Once they've been turned down on the build chart, you can't go back to Foresters and say, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. They're not 250, they're only 225. It doesn't work. You got to get it right the first time. So when in doubt, make sure you look at the build chart. Here's what I tell you about the build chart. These carriers are very liberal. In most cases, if you're dealing with and most of I believe with Foresters, I want to say the build chart is unisex, okay, which I think is in favor of females. But just kind of, I always have this kind of in my head is that I kind of have some benchmarks in my head. If they're 5'5", they should probably be 250 or less. If they're taller, if they're 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", that in that range, which is kind of the normal height, I'm thinking to myself, upper 280s. So if you're dealing with someone and you see, oh, they're 5'8", 305, that's a red flag in your head. You should be thinking, that sounds heavy to me. Let me take a look. There's no medical paramed exam, no blood, no APS. Also, which they don't mention on here, there's no DMV. They don't ask driving record questions. They don't run a motor vehicle. So which is a good thing, because other I believe they may have an age limit on it, but Mutual of Omaha is inclined to run it. Transamerica supposedly is now running DMVs, motor vehicle reports. So if you got a client with a bad motor vehicle history, let's say they're perfectly healthy, but they haven't been a good citizen on the highway, you may want to take a look at Foresters. And of course, underwriting risk class, it's either tobacco or non-tobacco, the risk class. Plans available, guys, we kind of already covered this, but let's kind of go over it again. You've got, I'll highlight this, Plan Right Preferred, which is a level benefit. It's 100% of the death benefit starting day one. And then you got Plan Right Standard. Again, Plan Right Standard is the old Plan Right Graded, and it's the death benefit. It's 100% of the face amount. Now they have what used to be their modified, they're calling basic, which I'm just calling graded. It's your typical graded policy. It's graded for 2 years. If the client passes away due to natural causes or health reasons, in the first 2 years, it's going to be ROP, which stands for return of premium, plus 10% interest. That's in years 1 and 2. If it's due to an accident in years 1 and 2, death benefit is based on 100% of the face amount. So even if what that means is, even if you have to go graded, which means they're really sick, if they die in a car crash or fall down some stairs or drowned in their hot tub, whatever it is, it's going to pay 100%. And then the death benefit is based on 100% of the face amount starting in year 3, which means you have to get through the first 24 months. Okay. Plan Right product details. This goes over the face amounts, guys. So on the preferred, ages 50 through 80, the death benefit is 5,000 to 35,000. If they're 81 or over, the death benefit is reduced to 15,000. That would be the maximum. So if you have a client that is, over 81 and they're looking for a higher face amount and they're healthy enough, you may want to look at a different carrier. The other thing that I found out, I don't have exact numbers for you, but I heard from Javier. He had found out that also commissions are reduced. So if your client is over the age of 80, so if they're 81 to 85, and you're going to write it through Foresters, you're going to take a little bit of a haircut as far as commission. How much? I don't know. My guess is 10 to 20%. And then the standard is if they're standard ages 50 through 80, they're going to be able to qualify for the minimum is still 5,000 up to $20,000 in face amount. And then if they're 81 to 85, it's 5,000. It's reduced down to 10 grand. So if your client needs a little bit more coverage, I would recommend looking at a different carrier. Now the graded product only goes to age 80, so which is pretty typical with most carriers. So ages 50 to 80 death benefit, 5,000 is the minimum, 15,000 is the maximum, which I think is pretty good. So if you have someone that has to go grade it with Foresters, that means they're probably on the pretty sick side. So you probably are not going to have a lot of choices there. You can get more with some other carriers. I know we've got guaranteed issue companies that you can go up to 25K. You just have to check, see exactly how much they need, kind of compare the premium differences. You, the agent, you make the decision what's going to be the best product for your client. Coverage period. Certificate endows at age 121, which means the cash value will equal the death benefit. We already talked about that. Cash value is guaranteed. Cash value amount varies based on many factors, including the plan type, gender, and tobacco status. The cash guaranteed value amounts will be shown on the certificate data page delivered with the certificate. So when they get their policy, it's going to show them how many premium payments they've made, what their cash value is. Also says the cash surrender value is available upon full surrender only. No partial surrenders are available with this product. So what I'm thinking that they're saying here is that you cannot surrender part of your policy. You either need to take all the cash value or don't take any. You might want to check with the carrier just to get clarification on that, but that's the way I'm reading it. That in other words, they can't take a policy loan against it. They either, they have to take the whole thing if they want to, take the cash value out of it. Continuing along with plan right product details. First premium requirement. Pre-authorization, which is the PAC, payer's checking or savings account from the applicant. Guys, with Foresters, if your client does not have a checking or savings account, can't do business with Foresters. That's the way you got to do it. They will accept direct bill. So if you got one of those clients that says they absolutely refuse to to give you your the checking information, you can do direct bill, but they would have to pay for it on a quarterly basis. Payments not allowed. They don't accept cash. They don't accept post-dated checks. They don't accept a check from the producer. They don't accept money orders, and they don't accept cashier's checks. So really, at the end of the day, what I'm telling you is you need to do EFT, and you need to set it up immediately. One other carrier, just I'll throw this out if you're not familiar, the one carrier that I know of that does direct bill on a monthly basis is American Amicable. And from what I understand, I think they will accept pretty much any form of payment, even a credit card. So yeah, I'll just throw this out there, so as an example, if you got a client that has a direct express card, as an example, you could write that through American Amicable and set it up on, select the form that you're going to do direct bill. And then when they get their policy, they can just call American Amicable and they can have the payments taken from their direct express card. Just throwing that out there as an option. Okay. So if you don't have American Amicable, you may want to get them for certain situations. Okay, continuing along with the product details, premium payment options. Initial draft and issue date must be within 45 days of the applicable interview, which is pretty good. So now the Foresters gives you the ability, most carriers are the initial premium needs to be within 30 days. You got a little bit of leeway. It's 45 days. So which may, in some cases, may help you close a deal, giving them that extra 15 days. 3 options are available for draft dates. You can draft immediately upon issue. You can specify a specific date, which would be the 1st through the 21st, or you can specify a particular day of the month. So as an example, if you got a client that has they get their Social Security on the 2nd, 3rd, or the 4th Wednesday of the month, you can set it up so it comes out on those particular days. So basically what you're doing is you're coordinating their premium payments with when they get their Social Security check. And again, premium payments are paid until age 121. This product does not allow 1035 exchange into the certificate, which we really don't do. That basically just means if let's say you were replacing the policy and they had, let's say a couple $1,000s of cash value in an old policy, they can't transfer that into this policy. That's what a 1035 exchange does. All right, plan right. Let's take a look at the process. Okay, pre-screening the client by completing the application. These are the things that will knock them out. A client is not eligible. Number 1, no Social Security number, not eligible. If they're not mentally competent to complete the process, or if they don't have the legal capacity, can't do business with them. If they are unable to complete the PHI, which is the phone interview, you can't complete the process. Now, if they're hearing impaired, you can use the TTY or the VRS. But let's just say you got that client that's just, I don't know, they just can't. I've had those clients. I've had clients where I'm like, no way in heck am I getting this person on the phone to do a phone interview. Okay, if you don't think your client can complete the phone interview for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to do business with Foresters. Also, if they answer yes, and we're going to go over the health question, if they answer yes to any of the questions 1 through 6, not eligible. If they've been previously declined by Foresters, they're not going to be eligible. Obviously, if they're outside the height and weight range, not going to be eligible. If they're taking any prescription medication, which is on the knockout list, not going to be eligible. And if they do not have an approved form of identification. So they just need to have some form of ID. Like if they don't have a driver's license, that's no big deal. But they do need to have some type of ID, like a state ID. That works just fine, okay? All right, guys, moving on. Now, this is a copy of what the application looks like. Now, it is, if you're familiar with the old Foresters application, it is very, very similar. But reading through it, it seems like they've added in a few extra questions here and there. So I would definitely get familiar with this. If they answer anything yes in these first 6 questions, they are not eligible for coverage. Let's just review some of the big ones. Some of the, if they're residing in a nursing home, if they're receiving skilled nursing, or if they're in hospice, if they're a patient in a hospital or a psychiatric facility, they're not eligible. Wheelchair use, not eligible. Now, if your client uses the scooter when they go to Walmart, that's acceptable. But if they have one at the house, even if it's just, if they've been prescribed by a doctor a scooter or a wheelchair in Medicare paid for it, not eligible for this product. Go to a different go to a different carrier. If they require any help for the activities of daily living, like eating, bathing, dressing, toiletries, taking medication, not going to be eligible. If they've used oxygen within the last year, not eligible, unless it's for sleep apnea. So if you have a client that has a sleep apnea machine that's hooked up to oxygen, that's acceptable with Foresters. Kidney dialysis, if they have any surgeries that have not been, or hospitalization that is scheduled that has not been done, not going to be eligible. Let's cover some of the big ones. Unexplained weight loss, not going to be eligible. Let's see if they received if they have ever received a organ or a bone marrow transplant, not going to be eligible. If they ever had an amputation due to complications of diabetes, even if it was just their pinky toe, not going to be eligible. Okay, it happens, guys. Most of these are pretty common. Cardiomyopathy, congestive heart failure, not going to be eligible. Let's see, any type of heart failure or heart muscle disease, ALS, Alzheimer's, AIDS, not going to be eligible. Okay, cancer. Here's what they say about cancer. Now, Forster's has a in order to get preferred, they have a 3-year look back on cancer. But here's what they're saying about cancer. If you've ever been diagnosed with one or more occurrence of the same or different type of cancer, or do you currently have cancer, their term cancer, and they have that, excluding skin cancer, you're not eligible. So if they've had a reoccurring type of cancer, so if they had cancer, they got cured and it came back, even if it was 10 years ago, not eligible. Okay, or if they currently have cancer. Now, here's the thing about cancer is that once they've been cured and they're in remission, they're eligible for coverage. They could at least get the graded program. Okay, in order for them, and we're going to cover this, in order for them to get preferred, they need to be out of treatment for 3 years, and I think to get standard, we'll double check. I'm going to cover that. I think it's 2 years. Okay. Now, here's the next set of questions, 7 through 12. If they answer anything yes in this set of questions, that means that they would be eligible for the graded program. Okay. Okay, here's the thing about Foresters. When it comes to diabetes, they're pretty liberal when it comes to the treatment and the time frame, but they're not very flexible when it comes to complications like the neuropathy, which is a big one, or if they've had sight problems or kidney issues. They're not flexible on that, like the neuropathy. I know a lot of agents are familiar with the prescription gabapentin. If they're on gabapentin, it's automatically going to be graded. The thing about Foresters with diabetes, they're only concerned about complications like the neuropathy, the diabetic coma, the insulin shock, that sort of thing. They don't care at what age they were diagnosed. They could have been diagnosed as a child and have had diabetes their entire life. As long as they don't have any of these complications, they're good with it. So in that fact, I think when it comes to diabetes, I think Foresters is one of the best carriers that we have. They also want to know within the past 24 months, If you've been hospitalized for 24 hours or more, that were revised due to your diabetes. So if you've been hospitalized for more than 48 hours due to your diabetes, you're not going to be eligible. They're also going to want to know about drug and alcohol abuse, aneurysms, brain tumors. Within the past 12 months, have you had a stroke or TIA, any type of heart surgery? If they have, they're going to be eligible for graded. So if you're visiting with a client, what that means is, put this into practical sense, you're visiting with a client, you're asking about heart attack, stroke. Yeah, I had heart surgery. Well, when did you have it? Well, I just got out of the hospital. I had heart surgery 2 weeks ago. Okay, potentially they're eligible for graded. You could still get them graded with Foresters. If they had it over a year ago, so your client says, yeah, man, I had a heart attack and they did, quadruple bypass surgery. Oh man, when did you have that surgery? Well, it was about 13 months ago. Well, depending on their medications, potentially they could be eligible for standard because it's over 12 months. So you really got to be a student of the game. Pacemaker implant, that kind of goes this in the kind of the same theory as like a heart attack. If it's been within 12 months, you're going to have to answer yes to it. And then the past 36 months, this is the cancer. So they have a 36-month look back as far as cancer goes. So you could still get coverage. Even if you answer yes, you can get coverage. It just may have to be the graded product with Foresters. Now we go into the last section. In this last section, if they answer yes to anything, they would be eligible for standard, which now is same day coverage. Okay, so let's kind of go through this. Some big ones, guys. Parkinson's disease or systemic lupus. So now you can have a client with Parkinson's and they can still get same day coverage. Now remember, if they have Parkinson's and it's super advanced and they have to use a wheelchair or they're getting help with ADL, then they're not eligible. But if they have Parkinson's and they're able to do everything on their own, they're fully functional, they're just fine. Here's a big one: hepatitis B or C. Hepatitis C, cirrhosis of the liver, or any type of other liver disease. Answer yes, same day coverage. Guys, that's huge. Kidney disease, including renal insufficiency. Now, they can't be on dialysis, but you could have a client with kidney disease that's like heading towards having to be on kidney dialysis. You can get them coverage. COPD, which before was always a graded product with Foresters, now they can have COPD, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or any other type of chronic lung disease. As long as they're not on oxygen, they can get same day coverage. 24 months for heart attack, stroke, or TIA. 24 months for treatment of angina or have taken medication for angina. So guys, if your clients have, if you don't know what angina is, that's chest pain. So if you have clients that are taking medication for chest pain within 24 months, answer yes, same day coverage. Within the past 24 months, have you been advised or to have a pacemaker or defibrillator? So what that means is that if your client has had a pacemaker put in, but it was over 2 years ago, they can get same day coverage. Okay. Well, that's within the past 24 months. Let me take that back. Pacemakers. Let me give you the layout on pacemakers. If they had a pacemaker installed, I'll go through the different time frames. If they just had it installed and they've had it implanted for less than a year, it's going to be graded. Okay. If it's been over a year, so if the pacemaker install was between a year and 24 months, they can get standard, which is same-day coverage. If their pacemaker has been over 2 years ago, they can get preferred, okay, which is huge. So if you're sitting with that client and say, yeah, I got a pacemaker. Well, when was that pacemaker? Oh, I've had it for 5-6 years. Guys, guess what? That's preferred, because Forrester's doesn't ask the follow-up question about heart arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat. So just talking about other carriers, which can be tricky sometimes, as an example with Transamerica will accept a pacemaker, but they consider a pacemaker treatment for an irregular heartbeat, which makes them standard, not preferred. So if you got a client that's got a pacemaker, they've had it over 2 years, they meet all the other criteria, guys, you get them a preferred rate with Forrester's. I think that's huge, man. I think this is a real game changer for Forrester's, how they've recategorized these questions. So if you haven't looked at Forrester's, man, I would definitely take a second look. We are currently in the process of updating the cheat sheet to reflect this, but I want us to take a look at the cheat sheet and just kind of go through here, kind of go through these medical questions again. Let me just circle this. This is all Forrester's. There we go. Okay, remember, heart attack, if it's over 2 years, it's going to be preferred. If heart attack between a year and 2 years, going to be standard. If they just had a heart attack, it's going to be graded, but they can still get coverage. Same thing with heart surgery and stroke. Congestive heart failure, good luck with that one. I think you probably need to go guaranteed issue. AFib or irregular heartbeat, guys, this is so common. With Transamerica, it's standard. The preferred, what that means is with Transamerica, that means it's if they haven't had treatment for it. Pacemaker implant, if they've had it over 2 years, it's preferred. If they've had the pacemaker between a year and 2 years, it's standard. And then graded if they just had the pacemaker implanted. Now, I'm going to go through these. COPD. Let me circle. Whoops. My apologies. Trying to do this with the mouse. Okay. COPD is now standard. Okay. If they just got diagnosed or if they've had it for, 10 years. Oxygen use. If they haven't used oxygen in over a year, it's preferred. If they've used oxygen within the last 12 months, it's declined. Sometimes, if a person, I'll give you an example why someone will be taken off of oxygen. Sometimes, if someone has a major heart surgery, they will come home with oxygen, okay? Doesn't mean they're going to be permanently using the oxygen. If they are prescribed oxygen for like chronic lung disease, typically that's for life. But it is possible for someone to be prescribed oxygen because of a surgery, and let's say they use it for 3 or 4 months. They just need to have not used that oxygen for a year. They can get preferred with Forrester's. Alzheimer's and dementia, decline. Got to go guaranteed issue every single time with that product or with that condition. Bipolar depression, guys, this is a huge, man. I've just within the last 10 years, man, I didn't realize how many people have bipolar depression. It's pretty common. Okay, a lot of carriers look at that differently. Now, we have not updated Transamerica yet. Now with Transamerica, if you're bipolar, it's standard. It's no longer preferred. I apologize. I have not updated Transamerica yet on the cheat sheet. We're in the process of doing that. Try to get it done within the next week or so. But if you have that client who is bipolar or they're taking medication for schizophrenia, it's going to be preferred with Forrester's. I think that's huge. Parkinson's we talked about already. Cerebral palsy, we don't come across that very often, But as long as they don't need help with the activities of daily living, you can still get a client with cerebral palsy preferred coverage. Let me just take a look at that again. Let's see, decline with Transamerica, it's decline, by the way. Mutual, it's level as long as they are able to do the activities of daily living. Multiple sclerosis, again, let me circle all these. Appreciate you guys bearing with me, man, but I think this is important. Multiple sclerosis, preferred with foresters. Again, as long as they're fully able to perform all the activities of daily living, they're good. Diabetes, let's just go through these. Insulin use after the age 50. Well, that should say preferred, it says level. My bad, I need to upgrade that. Insulin use before the age 50, level. No insulin use, level, level. You only get integrated if they have neuropathy or have some other type of complication with their diabetes. Age, no age listed for first diagnosed. So like I said, they could have had diabetes since they were a kid. They'll still be fine as long as no complications. Kidney dialysis, decline. Typically, you got to go guaranteed issue when it comes to kidney dialysis. I have to look at Transamerica. I know they before they took it as graded. We'll have to take a look at it. But here is a big one with foresters. We're adding this to the cheat sheet. Renal insufficiency with foresters, standard from it, whether they just got diagnosed with it or they've had renal insufficiency for 5 years, as long as they're not on kidney dialysis. Hepatitis, standard. Liver disease, including cirrhosis of the liver. With a lot of carriers, cirrhosis of the liver, automatic decline. Now with foresters, potentially you can get them a standard rate, same day coverage. Guys, in my opinion, I think these changes it's a game changer for foresters, for sure. Okay, this is the last section, and we're going to be wrapping up the call. We're going to circle foresters again. Internal cancer, 3-year look back, guys. So if you're, just as a tip, I know a lot of carriers have a 4-year look back for cancer. Foresters is only 3. Liberty Bankers is only 2 years. So if you have a client that's been cancer free, it's been over 2 years, consider Liberty Bankers for that one. If it's over 3 years, consider foresters. I know with let's see, with Mutual of Omaha, they have a 4-year look back as far as cancer goes. Systemic lupus, standard. Wheelchair use with foresters, that's a decline. Blood thinners, I've added some things on here as far as blood thinners go. Okay, foresters, their perspective with blood thinners is the longer you've been on it, the better. Okay, so and usually people don't go on blood thinners unless they've had unless they have blood clots, or usually it's after a stroke or a heart attack, they go on blood thinners. So here is Forrester's view as far as blood thinners. If they were just prescribed blood thinners and it's been less than a year, they're only going to be eligible for graded. If they've been on blood thinners but it's been less than 2 years. So let's say you got a client that's been on blood thinners for 18 months. And use less than 2, that's going to be standard. If they've been prescribed their blood thinner for over 2 years, it's going to be preferred. So if you have that situation, here's the situation. We're doing a risk assessment here. I got a client, age 70. They had a heart attack a little bit over 2 years ago. And after the heart attack, the doctor prescribed them Plavix or some other type of blood thinner. Preferred rate, okay, because they've been on the blood thinner for over 2 years. Build chart, see the build chart? This just kind of gives you, we just kind of put like a generic number on here. If they're, just kind of as a reference, if they're 5'8", they can be up to 292 pounds and still get preferred, okay? And there is a required phone interview with foresters. Let's see, we're running a couple of minutes over, guys. Let me finish up here. I think we're just about done. Pre-screening by the client, completing the application process. All right, so guys, once you've done your pre-screening, you got to get the, and you get your client qualified, you're going to go ahead and fill out the application. You're going to get the application signed. You're going to date it. You're going to call Aptical. You're going to complete the appropriate state application. For some reason, if the payor is different than the owner and the insured, make sure the contingent owner, in this case, it would be the other payor ID form, is completed and submitted with the application. What that means is that if your client is not paying for their own policy, let's say it's the, and it's not the owner, let's say it's their kid that's going to pay for it, there's a special form that needs to be filled out in order for someone else to pay for the policy. They will allow it. You just need to make sure you have that special form fill out. Now, what do? You got your client qualified. You know they're going to be preferred. You fill out the application. You call Aptical. You conduct the phone interview with the client, which is available in English and Spanish. The producer must be physically present with the client to complete the application and conduct the Aptical interview. So you need to be there. Don't think you're going to write the application and then do a three-way call later. Do it. You get on-the-spot medical eligibility notification. So that means you're going to know KNOW before you go. Application, answer medical questions in the client's bill chart. You're going to do the phone interview, which then they're going to do the MIB prescription history. Here's the phone number for Aptical. Guys, the hours of operation are really good. Monday through Fridays, they're open from 8:30 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the evening. And let's see, Saturdays and Sundays, they're open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Okay? Complete the PHI is available, okay, 45 days after completion. Here's the other thing I'm going to tell you, which I have found out from another agent that writes a lot of foresters, is that they have improved the quickness of their phone, of the PHI. No longer does foresters ask every single question on the phone interview. Before, when you do the Aptical interview, they'd ask every single question. Now, when they get the client on the phone, they verify all the information. They're going to ask if you read the disclosure to them. All the agreements are done. They're going to ask the client, Mr. and Mrs. Client, did you answer yes to any of the questions in section 1, which I think is like 1 through 6? And the client's going to say no. They're going to move on. Did you answer yes to any sections in section number 2? Client says no. Move on. Section 3. That's where we're for the standard. Did you answer any questions in section 3? No. Dude, the phone interview can take as little as about 7 minutes. If they answered any questions, let's say answered yes to COPD, then they're going to ask some follow-up questions about that. Once they do that, while they're doing that, they're running the MIB and the prescription history. They're going to come back and you're going to get a decision right there on the phone, which I think is pretty good. Submitting the application. If the client is medically eligible after the PHI, you got to submit the application. Guys, you got to submit the application within 10 days of taking the application. Even if your client is declined, you have to submit the application. So if you do an application, your client is declined, and you can't leave the application there. You've got to take it with you. You have to submit it. If you do not, because they sign, the foresters needs their signature, needs that application on file because they ran the MIB and the prescription history. If you do not submit the application, even on a declined case, foresters will cut you off. You won't be able to do business with them anymore. So just know that and make sure that you understand that's very important to do that. Let me see if there's anything else. Certificate effective date. The certificate effective date on the issue date when the first premium is collected. The future effective date is allowed on the certificate within 45 days from the application date. Backdating. Guys, you are allowed to backdate applications. What does that mean? That means if you have a client, let's say I'm writing a policy today and they just turned 75 as an example, but you want to use age 74, save them a few bucks. You can do that, but it is required that you collect the backdated premiums. Now, because they just started this, they're saying that you can backdate a contract up to 6 months to save age, but because they just changed their program, you cannot backdate it prior to December 8th, 2019. So this is something really kind of going forward. Just keep in mind that you can backdate foresters applications. And guys, we are to our last slide. This is the application process. Number one, data entry, notification via email within 24 hours of receipt. Once you get that application to foresters, the best way to get it to them is to email it to them. Or if you get approved for secure docs, you can do secure docs. I email my foresters applications. Case management, email communication to secure requirements. If there's anything that they need, they're going to do the underwriting assessment. Certificate's going to be emailed, or a certificate's going to be issued. Notification via email once issued. They're going to keep you in communication. Contract and packaging. And then last is certificate, if there's certificate delivery and delivery requirements if necessary. Guys, this typically is all happening within a 2-day time period, okay? And with that, we're going to conclude. Let me just see if there's any questions about anything on this. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We ran a little bit over. I do apologize. I didn't think it would take me that long to get through that, but this has been the updated Foresters Plan Right. And remember, man, do your due diligence. Study this program. Get on the Foresters website. One thing I can tell you about Foresters, just one little nugget here, is that Foresters has one of the best sales desks that you will ever have when it comes to agent support. Every person, every Foresters employee that's on the sales desk is also a licensed agent, okay, which I think is huge. So you call, you can get you can get your answers taken care of. If you need a risk assessment, okay, you call the sales desk. The Foresters underwriting risk assessment department they do not do risk assessments on Plan Right. If you need help with Plan Right under a risk assessment, you simply call the sales desk and you talk to one of the agents there, and they will help you look up whatever the question is, whether it be an illness or a certain medication, maybe it's a combination of different things. I'm just telling you, they are extremely helpful. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being on the call today. I hope this information has been helpful, and we will talk to you soon. God bless. Have a great weekend. Take care.